Hello Stampers, my name is Linda Bedinger and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Denver, Colorado. And I'm so glad you could join me this afternoon. Today I have another Christmas card project for you. This one is using the Christmas Gleaming stamp set and the punches and the holly leaves from that set, which I think are just very attractive. So let's just get started. Okay, here is my Christmas card project. Okay, here is my Christmas card project, and it is using, these are the materials you need to make this card. I'm using a Mossy Meadow Base, 8.5 by 5.5, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Then I have a strip. I'm using the Noble Peacock foil and the Noble Peacock DSP. This is a piece from the Noble Peacock DSP, and this piece is 1.5 inches by 5. This piece is in that pretty navy color, and it is 4 1/4 by 2.5, and then this piece is 3 1/2 by 5. Then you need some pieces of scrap of all of the DSP from that Noble Peacock because we're going to cut our ornaments out of this paper. Then I have a piece of this blue DSP also, 1/4 inch for decoration for the inside. Then I'm using the Christmas Gleaming stamp set, and in this set I am using the Merry Christmas stamp and I'm using the holly leaves. And I thought about putting something else on the inside. I suppose I could deck the halls with boughs of holly and stamp it on the inside. We'll see how I feel about that when we get there. Okay, and then you need a piece of very vanilla for the inside of the card, 4 by 5 1/4, and then you need a piece. You see I've already done a little bit of my stamping here. Another pretty good sized piece of the DSP to stamp the holly leaves and to cut out our sentiment that is down here on the bottom, and I'll show you exactly what I did to get all of that. All right, so the very first thing we can do and make ourselves a little bit of room is to use the punches that come from this set, the Gleaming Ornament Punch 2-piece punch pack. And I have mine here, the long ornament and the short ornament. And for this, I need a little one of this paper, and I always punch it upside down so I can see exactly what I'm doing and get the pattern on there the way I want it. Okay, now I can put that aside. Then I'm going to cut 2 larger ornaments. I'll set these over here. And I'm cutting them out of the other DSP in the Noble Peacock paper. And they're flying all around. Okay, one more. And this one I thought looked pretty when I centered it on the design that is in the paper. You don't have to do that, certainly, but you do go through a little bit more paper that way to get it to be right in the center. But that's kind of what I had in mind. Okay, so now I can put those away, and I can put my punches away. All right. Okay, I had one ornament to rescue from the floor, but there are my ornaments, and they're all ready to go. Now then, on these pieces here, we're going to take these 3 pieces and flag the bottom of them. And I'm just going to take a pair of scissors and cut up the middle. Now you can measure, but I'm just going to eyeball it and put a flag bottom on this piece of old olive. I decided to use both the old olive and the Mossy Meadow on this. The colors are complementary and just different enough that I think it makes the card more interesting, because it's kind of a darker looking card, and I wanted to have something a little bit lighter on it, and that's why I chose the old olive. Now I'm also going to flag the bottom of these 2 pieces, and again I'm just going up about a 1/2 inch and then coming in from the corners on this. And if I could cut straight, that'd be a lot easier. All right, and then this beautiful blue foil. Again, I'm going to just eyeball it, cut up the middle, and come in from either side to get my banner tails. And there we go. Now, all 3 of these banners I put down flat. I don't want this to be a problem in mailing, so my 3 banners I'm putting down flat with a little bit of snail. So I'm going to just add my snail to the back of my very large banner piece here, and I'm going to just give myself right to the top of the card, and then I'm going to give myself, not quite 1/4 inch. I just want the contrast between the 2 greens to show along this edge. Then I'm going to take my blue foil and add lots of snail. This is a fairly stiff paper, and you can see it has a tendency to curl a little bit. And so I want to make sure that it lays as flat as possible down on my paper here. Okay, so I want to leave about, it's probably a little bit more than 1/2 inch. And again, right up against the top edge of the paper, and put that down there. And I love the contrast of that color. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this paper, and again, it's that foil paper, so it's kind of got a mind of its own. So on this one, I want to put it so that it's just slightly past the flag point here and comes nearly all the way across the card. And again, right up against that top edge and then down the page. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is color and cut out, yes, it's fussy cutting, I'm so sorry, these holly leaves. And I'm going with the light old olive first. It doesn't look like the light old olive. Let's see if this is it. Yep, that's more like it. That's the light old olive. I think that's just got the wrong tops on it, because that is definitely not light. Okay, so here is the light old olive, and I'm going to highlight it with the darker old olive anyway, so that will work out just fine. And with the blends, what I want to do with the first color, the lighter color, is I just want to get the color laid down. Then I can go back and do more with it once I've got the color in. Okay, now I'm going to take that dark old olive pen and just go around the edges of my holly leaves. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of the dark color to the veins on the leaves here on the holly. And again, right around the edges. And then what I'm going to do is come back in with my lighter color and blend those together a little bit. Okay, for the berries, what I've done is selected my light real red, or this is actually Poppy Parade, and I wanted to use Poppy Parade. I used red on this one, and I think I'm going to like the Poppy Parade a little bit better. It's a little bit lighter, and I'm going to go ahead and color those berries in, and then I'm going to add some highlights with the dark. And I have one more of these to do, and I'm going to speed up the video while I do that, and that is putting this decoration on the inside of the card. So I'm going to go ahead and take my memento here and my stamp, and since I'm putting down that little strip, I want my holly leaf over just a little bit. There we go. And then I'm going to give that just a second to dry, and then I will speed up the video while I do my coloring on that one. Okay, there is all of my coloring done, Now I am going to fussy cut out these two hollies, and I will speed up the video while I do that. Okay, now I'm going to set my holly leaves aside. The other thing I did put on this was a Mossy Meadow bough from the Peaceful Boughs set. So you do need a little scrap of Mossy Meadow to cut out this little bough to go on the card front. So what we're going to do then is, I think this is just about ready to be assembled. Got my holly leaves, and I've got my ornaments, and I've got my little piece of scrap to do. I guess we just have one more little bit of stamping to do, and that is to put this little stamp together. Now, this stamp in this set is, in my opinion, a terrifying stamp because it's in the words are in the negative space. So I think these are kind of challenging to stamp. So I'm going to ink mine up really, really well in Night of Navy, and try to get it right down here. I hope my head doesn't get in the shot. And get this stamped right down here in this corner. And there we go. It's a little crooked on the page, but that's just fine, because what I'm going to do is what I did for that card. You know, I'm going to let that dry just a minute. That's a lot of ink. But what I did was I just cut that piece out and put it on dimensionals. And that way I didn't have to frame it, and I didn't have to line it up. It's just cut so that I suppose you could leave a tiny little border. And I did this in the very vanilla. It's easy to cut out because you're cutting just around the border of the word. So there we go. Now what you need then is just a couple of dimensionals to go on the bottom of your sentiment and on the bottom of your card. So we'll put a couple of mini dimensionals on that and get that all ready to go. That will be all ready to go. So now we're ready to finish the assembly of the card. So this is the inside, and I've got my strip. Bring out my silicone mat and add some snail to the back of my strip and put that in place on the inside of the card. Now I cut this little 1/4 inch strip so that it was going to be longer than I needed, and that way I could, one, make sure then that it is cut so that it fits absolutely perfectly. And so there we go. There's the inside of our card, and with a little bit of snail we can put that in place and be done with that part. Unless we decide to stamp something else on the inside here. To see how I feel about that. Right now, that's got the red, it's got some of the foil paper, and it's got the light and dark old olive in there, and the Poppy Parade. Now, for the front of my card, what I wanted to do was start with one of these hollies and put it up on dimensionals and put that where I wanted it in the corner. So I've got a couple of dimensionals here to put on my holly leaf. And I want to place that right up here on the corner of my card. Then this little piece, this one I laid flat, and I think I'd like this to have a little bit more dimension. So I'm going to see if I can find a place to put a little bit of a dimensional, one of the bones from along the corner here, along the edge. I'm going to cut a little strip of dimensional and take the paper off on one side. There we go. All right. And then I'm just going to take this little strip and put it down in a couple places that there's room for just a little piece of dimensional, and then snip it off and then do it again. There's a little spot here. I can put some of this strip of dimensional. There's a nice little spot right there. And this is a way to get some, even on something cut as intricate as this, to get a little bit of height on this little piece. So again, I'm going to be very selective and just little pieces here and there. And let's see, I just need a little dot of a dimensional right there to anchor that stem, and I think that is going to be enough. Let's see how we did on this side. I don't think anything is showing. I think that's going to be perfect. So I'm just going to peel off these edges. So this part and the fussy cutting of the holly leaves makes this card just a little fiddly. So I'm going to take my bough and I'm going to poke it. I'm going to put it right down here. Now that's not all the way under that holly leaf, but one of the things that I've decided to do, and I did it on this card too, is I didn't really have to color the berries because I really, on this second one, only want the leaves. And because I'm going to take these leaves and lay them down flat since the top holly is raised, and I'm going to tuck this one underneath here, and that will fit there, and it actually looks like it has dimension because this little pine bough is raised. And then I've got my other leaf, and I'm going to put some snail on it and tuck it right underneath this piece here and flat on the card. And there we go. I think that looks pretty good. Now this little bauble I ended up putting up on dimensionals. And setting right over here on the blue, about half of it on the blue foil. And then this piece I thought looked pretty good if I could put it on the green pattern paper, and that way the blue shows off. So we're going to just add this one right here. In fact, I might poke some of it under and some of it over that pine bough, but I like that pine bough raised better than I did on this one where it's flat. You'll have to tell me what you think, but this looks pretty undimensional, and I really like the way that that's raised. Okay, then this last one, I just added snail, and I put this one down flat, and really just to fill out the card and add some additional color right in here. Now, we have our sentiment all ready to go, and you'll notice the difference in the color on these. You move some of this stuff out of the way. Okay, and what I did was I used my Wink of Stella, and I went over this sentiment. First thing I'm going to do is put it in place. And I tried just stamping the sentiment on the green card, and that really didn't work. If I put this right down here at the bottom, it's a little understated, but that's kind of what I was going for. But you'll recognize I don't do a whole lot of giant sentiments. And so then I went over the Merry Christmas with my Wink of Stella brush, and what it does is it pulls that navy color over the very vanilla and mutes it, and I think that really is very pretty that way. Now, you're going to have to clean off your brush to get that blue off, and then I put some Wink of Stella on these little red berries. And your choice. It's got lots of shiny pieces, and I don't know that it necessarily needs any more bling, but everything is improved by Rhinestones, in my opinion. So I'm going to grab a couple of Rhinestones and my Take Your Pick tool, and let's see what happens if I put a couple of Rhinestones on this. I'm just going to use little ones because I don't think it's going to take much. And we might just put 3 on here, and maybe one down there. Having trouble picking them up today. And maybe one right in here on the blue. I think that's pretty. And then one more, and I'm going to stick that right down here on the bottom. I do think it dresses the card up a little bit, so you'll have to tell me what you think, but I kind of like it with the rhinestones on, but I love bling. So that's it for me. That is our project. I think it's a lovely little project. You certainly could add a stamp on the inside, and I may later, right up here in the corner, to put this Deck the Halls with boughs of holly. It's kind of an acknowledgement of the holly pieces on here, but I really am pleased with this card. I think it's so pretty. A little bit different for colors for Christmas in the greens and the blues, but I really do like it. So you'll have to let me know what you think. And that is my project for the day. Thank you so much for stopping by my YouTube channel today. I do so appreciate it. And if you don't already have a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'd love to be your demonstrator. Or you could join my team. It'd be lovely to have you on my team. This is now December, So my prize draw for the month of December, it was so funny, the prize winner for the month of February is Susan Noko. And I had talked to Susan. She put an order on my site, and I called and talked to her, and she was saying she so wished that she could get the paper for the rose bundle for November. And sure enough, when I put the names in a little hat, and I have my husband draw the papers, and Susan's name came up. She doesn't know that until I send her an email, but she did win the Christmas rose bundle and the package of paper. So congratulations to Susan. But for the December drawing, an order of any size on my website, lbedinger.stampinup.net, or you can get to it from my blog, www.inkingenuity.com, and it's going to be the bundle of your choice out of the new spring mini catalog. So that should be kind of fun. And like I said, that's it for me. I'll be back soon with more cards, more tips, and more projects. Bye.